Okay, and here we go. We are live with this afternoon's training webinar on management features in Terrain Navigator Pro. So once again, thanks all for joining. Today's webinar is an important one because it's going to teach us how to access our credentials in Terrain Navigator Pro, how to change our password, also how to renew our subscription, how to add users to our account. So if you have a single user subscription and you want to add some subscriptions, we'll go through the basics of how to do that. We'll also talk this afternoon also about how to delete installations and how to change users and reassign licenses, which is very important for some of our larger organizations that have multiple users in one account. And let's say you have an employee leave and you want to change their information and transfer the subscription to the new employee. So we'll go through those things as well. I would ask if you do have any questions that you would use the text in the upper right-hand corner, just click on the text box. And instead of interrupting the meeting, if you would type in your questions there, and at the appropriate time, we'll stop and take those questions. We'll also have a time for questions and answers at the end of at the end of the webinar. So let's go ahead and get started. You'll see here I have a Terrain Navigator Pro project open, and one of the things that we often see is people forget their credentials. They forget their username and password. So the easiest way to obtain your own credentials unencrypted is to go to the File menu and then choose Preferences, and then go to Subscription and User Account. There you're going to have your username and password that's unencrypted. You'll have your list of states that are assigned to you, and that's a good way to get your credentials so that you can have those handy. I'm going to go ahead and close this. That's also a reminder to me. Everyone, we do suggest that everyone be running TNP version 12.1.0. If you're not sure what version of Terrain Navigator Pro that you are running, you can always go to the Help menu and go to About, and you'll see what version you have installed on your computer. If you do need assistance with your upgrade, we do suggest that you contact technical support, and they will be able to assist you to make sure that you're running the latest version of the software. So the first goal today is let's go ahead and talk about, we've talked about the username and password, but we often get questions about how do I change my password. And so in Terrain Navigator Pro, for your credentials, the easiest way to change your password is to, and I'm going to bring a screen over here, it's going to be to log into the web portal. You'll notice here that it's at terrainnavigator.com. You'll put in your username and your password after you press the login link. And so once you do that, you enter your credentials, you press login, and you'll see some tabs. If you have a single user subscription, this is exactly what the page is going to look like. And so if you go under Account, you'll see three different sections: Profile, Installations, and Licenses. And so one of the things that you'll do with that is to go to the Profile section. You'll see your contact information. You can change your contact information here. Let's say you change addresses or phone numbers, or you have a new email address you want to register with us. This would be the section to do that. Now, as far as changing your password, it would be under the change password here. Now, I'm getting a message that people aren't seeing the screen. I just want to double check is that people can see my profile. Is that correct? Okay, I'm getting messages here. I don't think anyone can see the screens. Let me go back. Let me check and see what's happening here. Okay, so I do see that. Bear with me for just a second as I change screens here. One moment. I'm getting a note that someone's having problems with audio. Is anyone else having problems with audio? Audio is fine. Okay, let me try. Let's go with this again. Bear with me for just a second. Got some late people that are joining as well. Can someone verify that they do now see the web portal screen? Okay, Dustin, thank you so much. I do apologize for that. Let me go ahead and let's go back just a little bit here, just get caught up here. So we're talking about changing your, if you want to change your password in Terrain Navigator Pro, where would you do that? So you would go to the web portal at terrainnavigator.com. You would go ahead and click in the upper right-hand corner and choose Log In. You would put your information, your username and password. We already talked about how to obtain that. You're going to press Login. You'll have 4 tabs across the top. So you'll have Account, Projects, Subscriptions, and Downloads. You'll go to your account, and you'll see 3 separate sections here: Profile, Installations, and Licenses. Click on Profile, and here's where you can update your information. To change your password, you would click on the Change Password, or the little symbol with the lock and the key. You would enter in your current password, and you would change and put in the new password that you want, and you would go ahead and click Done. So one thing that's important to note here is that this is not a global change password for all of your platforms. In other words, if you do elect to change your password, please remember that when you're in the Terrain Navigator Pro mobile app, that you do need to log out and to log in with your new set of credentials so that you can access your projects. Very important to remember, you use your credentials for the website. You also use them for the TNP mobile app. And it's not a global change. Just because you've changed it here, you still have to remember to change it on the TNP mobile app. So that's very important. I know that causes some confusion with some of our customers, but that's just how those things are. The next thing we're going to talk about is going to be how to renew your subscription online. So let's go ahead. We're in the same account here. So I'm going to go to my subscriptions button. And on this particular test account that I have here, we have expired subscriptions. We would go ahead and click Renew. And I want to renew my base subscription. Then I would click Next, and I would just continue through this process. It is a secure server, so that your credit card information is, handled securely and so forth. So basically, you would use your subscriptions button to renew your existing base subscription. Now, let's talk about the event that you have a base subscription. But what you would really like to do is to go ahead and you want to add one of our add-on subscriptions. So let's say you wanted to add the Sites add-on. You would click on, I would like to enable inactive subscriptions. You would go ahead and change that to on. You would see the price change here. And you would see that you can go ahead and, again, click through the next buttons and you'd be able to activate any inactive subscriptions. While we're on the screen, we'll also cover increasing team size. Let's say you have a single user, you're a consulting forester or so forth, and you have a new employee, you want to buy a subscription for them, you would increase your team size. And so by increasing your team size, you can say, okay, I'd like to go from 1 user, I would like to increase my team from 1 to N number of users. And again, you can purchase the subscriptions for that additional employee as well. And that's how you would do that. In terms of purchasing additional maps, let's say you wanted to go ahead, you already have a state or a region, you want to add another one, you would click on purchase additional maps, and then you could go ahead and say, okay, I want to purchase maps for Texas, and if you want to add, the parcel data, the premium ownership, you could do that here as well, and just click through the next buttons and take care of that. So that's basically renewing your subscriptions online. Now that brings up another thing that we'd like to talk about for those that are managing many different users under one organization. Let's go ahead and talk about license assignments. Let's talk about deleting installations and so forth. Let me go back here to my account tab here. I'm still in my single user test subscription here. And one of the things that you can do is add or delete installations for a single user by going to the installations ID. And what happens is when it's installed, there'll be a trash can on the right-hand side, and you would click on that. Let me go ahead and bring over my second window here. Can everybody see that? It should say sales to Michelle. Okay, and I'm going to log into this test account, and let's go ahead and log in here. We've got a profile and a set of licenses for a base subscription. And one of the things here is when you've got users, let me log out of here. Let me log back in. And let me just go ahead and update my password here. Log into this account. And what I'm going to do is now you'll see, and this is important for those that are administrating a number of users, you'll see, in addition to the account in the administration, you'll see a Teams button here. You'll see, and this is where you would set up Teams. Now, one of the things when you add a team, it's important. Teams can share projects, and those will be both desktop projects as well as mobile projects. But the important thing for those that are administrating TNP subscriptions or users, you need to set up your team on the web portal here first. So go ahead and click on Add Team. In this particular test account that I have, I set up 2 team members. So let's just say we want to give this red team. So we're going to create a team. We're going to call it red team. And then depending on the number of users that you have, they'll be all listed here. You can say, okay, I want to add Michelle and I want to add Joe to this team. And then you're all set. Go ahead and click done. And you'll see you have your team has been set up. If you want to delete the team, you can go ahead and press on the trash can button. If you want to edit the team, let's say you've had a couple of people that you want to add to this team or delete, you could do that by clicking on the pencil. So important when you're administrating your licenses, when you're setting up projects on the desktop, remember to do that on the web portal here. And another thing that I do want to cover while we're in this particular section is, let's go back to our account. Let's go back to our installations. So here's my second account that we're in, and you'll see this is where our installations are. Now, you can, for each user, let's say you've got an employee that has left the company, you want to delete that installation that they have on a computer, and you want to reassign the license. So one of the things that you would do is, let's say this desktop one is the old employee's installation. You'd go ahead and click on the trash can. You'll be asked if you want to delete that entitlement. You would click yes. What you would do is be able to go to administration now. And here's where your list of users are. So that's how we talked about how to delete an installation. Now let's talk about changing users or adding users and assigning licenses. One of the ways that you would do that is, again, under the administration tab, you would go to users, and let's say you want to add a user. So let's go ahead and click on the user. And this is where you'll enter the contact information, the email address, phone number, etc. And there's a little button down here as account administrator. The TNP account administrator can, change users, can change the contact information, email address for the account administrators. For those of you with larger accounts, you probably want to just, just keep yourself as the account administrator. So I'm going to click done here. Actually, I'm going to click cancel. So in terms of users, that's how you would add them. If you want to change the information for a user, again, click on the pencil and go ahead and update the information, and then click done, and you'll be able to change the user's contact information. Now, regarding the assignment of licenses, the way that that is handled, again, in the licenses section, you would click on that, and the number of base subscriptions that your organization or company has purchased, you'll have a number of list of those. And to assign the license, you would click on the edit license, and you'll see the TNP product ID will come up, the expiration date will come up, and the state that it's for. You'll be able to, using the drop-down list, assign this license to a specific user. So the beauty of this is that it allows the TNP account administrators the ability to change users, to delete installations, so that when you install TNP on the new user's computer, you have that license available to you. And so you don't have to contact us or our support to accomplish those tasks. I think I do have a question here, so let me just check over here. Do have a question. Can I edit the name of the team, or do I have to create a new one? Chip, you can if you have two users. Let me go back to my teams here. And if you want to change the name of it, you can just, maybe it's not the red team, Chip, maybe it's blue team. You can do a name change here and click on done. And let me go back and we'll refresh that. And you'll see that the name change has been taken into effect. Do I have any other questions up until this point? Okay, so that is the way to, number one, just to review quickly, we've learned how to obtain our username and password in Terrain Navigator Pro. We've learned how to go to the web portal, administer licenses, change users, delete installations. And one of the things that we want to do is to be able to, take a look at the projects. I'm going to go ahead here and go to the projects tab. Now, when you create a desktop project in Terrain Navigator Pro, and you choose the synchronization feature, that Terrain Navigator Pro project will be available, on the desktop Terrain Navigator Pro, but a separate project is also created on the TNP mobile app. And so synchronization will allow you to have that desktop project synchronized with the TNP mobile app. And then also you can obtain that project on the TNP web portal. And all three of those are synchronized. So we do have a number of webinars that already cover project synchronization. So I would refer you to the TNP YouTube channel for more information on synchronization and how that works in Terrain Navigator Pro. Now, one of the things that we are going to move towards is discussing assigning projects to teams for joint access. So we've covered that a little bit about that. You do set up your teams here on the web portal. And then let me just move this out of the way. Just want to make sure that you can see my Terrain Navigator Pro screen. Can someone let me know if you can see my TNP? Okay, great. And so when we're on the desktop Terrain Navigator Pro, all of our projects are managed under layers, manage projects. And you'll see a screen comes up with a list of your projects. When you want to create a new project, you would go ahead and choose the second option so that we can synchronize that. And you would say, okay, I want to have this new project and I want to establish full synchronization with a mobile project. And then you could also, this is where you specify which team should have access to the project. And so there's a drop-down list here. This is a separate account than the one that I just demonstrated to you, but I have different teams that are set up. So this is the window that you would select which teams have access to the project that you've created. So I just wanted to demonstrate that for you. Let me go ahead and cancel out of that. Let me go ahead and close this. Now, one of the things that we said we would mention in this webinar is how to access the Terrain Navigator Pro app when you get a new phone. The key thing when you get a new phone with Terrain Navigator Pro is that you will want to go ahead and download the new, if you get a new phone, remember we talked about, let me just pull this over here and let's go ahead and I'm going to log into Terrain, into the web portal. So let's go ahead and pull this up. And the thing is that under the account, again, what you're going to want to do is to delete the old phone installation. So this particular account has an installation on Moto G6. If that is my old phone installation, I simply remove that by clicking on the trash can. Am I sure I want to delete this? Yes, I do. Then what you will do is go to the, with your new phone, go to the App Store for the that's appropriate to your model. So if it's iPhone, you're going to go to iTunes. If it's an Android, you'll go to Google Play. You'll download Terrain Navigator Pro, find it in the App Store, and then enter in the credentials, and then you'll be fully synchronized with the desktop, and you'll be ready to go with that. Are there any questions at this point in the webinar before we move to the next section? Okay, I have a question here. How can a person be designated as an administrator? So Douglas, if you have a single user account, then you're automatically the TNP administrator for the web portal. If you have a couple of users, what you'll see, let me go ahead and log out of this account and go into my multiple user one. Bear with me for just a second, Douglas. Under the account section, no, under administration, you would go to users. You would click on the user, and Douglas, here from this window on the website, I could designate Joe as a account administrator. Click done, and now he would have the ability again to change users and their information and delete installations and so forth. Do we have any other questions? I have a question here. Has there been any improvements to sync in areas with poor cellular service? I get a lot of projects duplicated when syncing. If you bear with me for just a second here, I'll ask Ed if he could answer that question for us. So I have Ed here, and Ed, the question is have there been any improvements to the sync with areas with poor cell service?
We're in the process of doing a number of server upgrades that should, in fact, improve the reliability of synchronization across all platforms. That process is ongoing, and there's also, I encourage everyone to make sure they use the latest version of the software, whether it be the mobile app and the desktop software. Just recently, we improved the iOS app to deal with errors in synchronization a little better. So the answer is yes, there have been improvements, and there's always improvements being made. So keep your software up to date, and that's the best way to know that you're using the current features. Thanks.
Thanks, Ed. That's a nice segue into the last portion of our training here, which is to talk about the Terrain Navigator Pro service and support forum. So I've brought a window over here. I believe everyone can see that. If you want to learn more about Terrain Navigator Pro or join the Terrain Navigator Pro community, you would go to the URL is up here. It's tnp.uservoice.com. And what you'll see here is you can give us feedback. So Tommy, let's say you wanted to report on I'm having a problem with the desktop software, or I'd like to see some changes in Terrain Navigator Pro. You can go ahead and enter your idea, your suggestion, or whatever. So you can go ahead, type that in. And the way that stuff, we do keep track of our customer requests. That is very important to us because we're always wanting to make listen to our customers and the types of features that they would like to see. So you can put that here. You can peruse, here's some of the most recent features that have been requested, and you can vote on features. The more people that vote for a particular feature, that definitely weighs when our engineering team is taking a look at what new features to implement and so forth. So, and it gets in the cycled. You'll see here's one that's planned and so forth. Now, I just want to go back. Let me go back to the uservoice.com. Let's go back out here. You'll see Knowledgebase Articles. This is a great place if you want to learn how to do something. We do have help in Terrain Navigator Pro, as many of you are aware. But there's also a knowledge-based article where you can, get very definitive information on specific, maybe you don't know about coordinates. So if you click on coordinates, it will give you the different types of coordinates in Terrain Navigator Pro. There's a wealth of information, is what I'm trying to say with the TNP user voice community. So there's a couple of things here. If you want to, sometimes if there's a fix that's posted up here, you can check for the latest fix and see what to do in the event that you're having difficulties. It's a great place. You can also search on the right-hand side. Let's say you wanted to find more information on the TNP mobile app. You can go ahead and type in on TNP mobile, and that will come back, and you'll be able to click on the articles that are of interest. So that brings our this afternoon's webinar to a close. Just as a recap, we've talked about a few different things in the TNP management webinar. We've talked about how to access your password. We've talked about how to delete installations. We've talked about how to edit your user information, how to change usernames, how to reassign licenses. We've talked about our Terrain Navigator Pro user voice community. Do I have any other questions before we join this webinar? Okay, again, if you do want a certificate, please email me and let me know. Also, we are soliciting feedback for anybody that wants to see if there's a particular training webinar that you would like to see us do. Please email me directly, and we'll be happy to get that in on the calendar. So I wish everybody a great afternoon. And once again, thank you for joining this afternoon's webinar. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you, folks. Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you, Larry. Thank you, Bob.